Hey everybody, going on a walk my dog? There's my little guy right there, isn't he the cutest? He's my cute little sweetheart. Yeah, he's my cute little sweetheart. So what do I want to talk about today? It's the day after the Iowa caucuses. And of course, oh look, Iowa's having trouble coming together with its numbers. I wonder why. Can't possibly imagine why a caucus, a Democratic caucus, with Bernie Sanders in the lead, is having trouble putting together its numbers. Basically what's happening right now is that the higher-ups in the Democratic Party are coming together and they're discussing how they can disenfranchise Bernie Sanders without making it too obvious that that's what they're doing. You know, they need a bit of plausible deniability, right? And also there's a lot of backroom dealing going on right now about maybe they can create larger coalitions to simply stop Bernie Sanders legitimately, or seemingly legitimately. So if you can get like Elizabeth Warren to drop out of the race and then get her to endorse someone like Pete Buttigieg or whatever his stupid last name is, it's hilarious to me that the Democrats think that they can run a guy who has the word "but" in his name as a candidate, and that he's going to win. That's amusing to me. It's I know it's childish, but Donald Trump is the president of the United States. There's lots of childishness going on. So we'll see the results probably later today, maybe tomorrow. I suspect that they'll at least allow Sanders to appear in the mix. And the narrative that they'll come out with is, oh yeah, this isn't much different than when Hillary Clinton ran, right? Like Bernie Sanders, he polled very well. He was really close to Hillary, but you know, Hillary went on to win the nomination because, you know, they're manufacturing consent. They're manufacturing the narrative and pretending as though Sanders isn't the clear front runner. Because that's what they have to do, because they would prefer to be billionaires. And, I mean, these people are ultimately going to side with Donald Trump, right? Because they would prefer to be billionaires than support Bernie Sanders. That's what it comes down to. That the warfare going on in the United States isn't about right versus left, it's about billionaires versus the workers. That was basically declared since Occupy Wall Street. That was always fun, right? The Occupy Wall Street movement. It's such a shame that the Occupy Wall Street movement and the... come on, buddy, let's go. The Occupy Wall Street movement and the Tea Party could never join forces. That was the great shame of that moment in history. That the Tea Party people blamed government, the Occupy Wall Street people blamed corporations, and they were beginning to put together that, wait, the problem is that corporations own the government. So you're both actually correct. You're just coming at it from two separate angles. That if they had have actually put together that, oh wait, corporations own the government and that's the problem. But the Republicans were successful in their attempt to galvanize the Tea Party and fold them into the party. The Democrats were not successful folding Occupy Wall Street and the Occupy Wall Street people into their party. Well, they were less successful anyhow. They had a different angle at the time, which was Barack Obama, and using issues of racial equality. And it is a historical moment, first black president. This isn't to take away from that moment in history, but Barack Obama ended up working for corporate interests. He ended up being a corporate president. History will see him as sort of maybe a moderate Republican. Like most of the Democratic Party are essentially Reagan Republicans. Here, I'm gonna put this toque on. It's actually a little chilly out today. So we'll see how those results unfold. Bernie Sanders, obviously in the lead in Iowa. He's polling higher than everybody else. All the exit polls are showing that he's highest. Any information, boots on the ground, are showing that it's Bernie Sanders who's in the lead in Iowa. And so if the results say anything other than that, you can be assured that that's shenaniganry. Some mild effery by the Democratic National Convention, the Democratic Party. What's something else that's been banging around in my head these days? Let's go to Canadian politics. Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is like the fakest prime minister that's ever been a prime minister. He doesn't actually stand for anything. He doesn't actually believe in anything. That's becoming clearer and clearer as time goes forward. That he was essentially groomed for this position from when he was very young. Even the first election he had, this is the thing that kills me. Like, even the Conservatives understood that this was the case. When he first ran against Stephen Harper, the narrative was, he's not ready yet. This sort of concession that, yes, someday Justin Trudeau will become the Prime Minister of Canada. There was this sort of underlying belief that Justin Trudeau had this divine right bestowed upon him by his lineage, that eventually one day he will stand up and rule the country. Today is not that day, but he will one day, for he is a Trudeau. But ultimately, Justin Trudeau is just a pretty boy who reads lines well, right? You can see this in any interview he gives. He did that Hassan Minhaj interview where he got pilloried, rightly so. And he just tried to stick to script, basically. He has a script, right? His script is well crafted and it's given to him. And he just sticks to that script. And anytime they go off script, he's just, well, we'll just have to agree to disagree, right? He sort of politely bows out of the conversation. Or just sticks to his talking points. And this tells me a tale of a fellow who has no moral center of his own. He's simply doing what he's told. He's not actually, he doesn't actually have any policies. He doesn't actually have any ideas. He just goes up to the oil industry and says, look, we have to do something about climate change. You are the primary cause of climate change. You know that's true. So, what do you think we should do? And the oil industry sort of shuffles its feet around and says, like, yeah, we do have to do something about it. It's true. I like breathable air. I like food. I don't like destroying the planet for my children and generations of humans to come. You're right. We should probably do something. I guess we could take a tiny little small carbon tax, I guess. Well, shuffle. Oh, but make sure that carbon tax doesn't apply to the oil industry, right? Because if it did, that would mean that billionaires would get less money. And that's a problem. And so that's exactly what's happening. And Justin Trudeau, he just goes and he just reads from his script. And we're supposed to take this guy seriously as the leader, right? He's now a two-term prime minister. He's got a minority government this time around. Rightly so. I feel like the blackface scandal alone. This is the thing that really frustrates me. I wish that the right was a legitimate governing force. I wish that they weren't simply a wing of corporate power. I wish that they were actually saying things that were rational, and I wish that they were actually fighting for workers, and I wish that they were actually not even fighting for workers, just putting forth rational policy that would help workers. Because if they were, hey, how you doing? Because if they were, there would be this if they were, Trudeau would have resigned, right? Like, can you imagine if Justin Trudeau came out, this blackface scandal happened, and on the right there was somebody saying, hey, you know, the people of Alberta are really suffering because of this shift, this climate change shift, which we have to do, because that's rational and logical, and everybody on the planet should be saying that. We know we have to shift away from tar sands. So how about we do something to help these workers, these people who have been working in the tar sands, who have been doing work for Canada. How about we do something like pass a basic income, which is a right-wing policy, if you ask me. I think that we'd have a conservative majority right now, because Justin Trudeau is basically a do-nothing. Right? What's he done? He stands and he boasts, oh, well, we tax the wealthy, and then he gives them like gifts. He like gave $400 million to the Westons so that they could replace all their fridges. And I'm like, those guys make like $3 billion a year. You don't need to give them that money, dude. You could mandate that. You could tell them to do it. But that's not how the Liberal Party works, right? The Liberal Party plays this game of, they want to convince the populace that they're left-wing, but they rule on the right, right? They campaign on the left, rule on the right, is the sort of well-known adage about these guys. That phrase alone, right? That just means that they're liars, right? And we know it. And we know that, like, they just work for the same people the conservatives work for. They're just more graceful about it. So there's going to have to come a time in this country when we finally, as a people, get our act together and actually abandon these chuckleheads. Because they suck. They routinely suck. They're not interested in helping workers. They're not interested in helping with issues of climate change or any of that kind of stuff. They're just interested in maintaining power. That's their only interest. And if the two issues come to a head with one another, on the one side actually doing something and helping anyone, and on the other side servicing the billionaires who they work for, they're going to go with the billionaires every time. Every time. Like, what have they actually done since they've been in office? Like, actually. Marijuana legalization, I think, is something that they would definitely lay claim to. You know, making a plant legal that shouldn't have been made illegal in the first place. Good for them. Of course, they do that for their corporate buddies. Because why wouldn't they do that for their corporate buddies? They've opened up a whole new market. Their billionaire friends can get richer, and which is exactly how it's going to go and how it will go. So, and ultimately the populace is just sort of like, we're happy about it because it's nice to know that, you know, innocent people aren't getting thrown into cells and prisons because they happen to have a plant on their body. You know, that's nice to know. I'm sure the police have just found a different operation, a different way of going about locking innocent people in prisons. You know, just carry a baggie of Coke with you. You can say what you want, I guess. Oh yeah, I have no faith in the police. Like, no faith in the police. Like, this whole system of, like, really, when you stop and you pause and you think about it, the whole system is, oh, 1 second guys, sorry, this hill kicked my ass. Oh, stupid hill. I'm a prairie boy. I'm used to flat land. Oh, hills. And I'm getting old. Try not to get old, guys. Just do yourself that favor. Try not to get old. Oh, okay, I did it. Huh, okay. And doing that while talking about this at the same time. Oh my God. Okay. I'm back. Ugh. Of course, my little pug does it. He's just like, what? What's your problem? You have 4 legs. It's cheating. So, the system that we live in is one where white Englishmen came, laid claim to the land, were given free land. I'll chirp on this until the end of my life. Were given free land, set up a policing service and a legal system in order to protect that system. And if you talk to a police officer today, their primary role is to protect the property of millionaires and billionaires. That's their primary role. That if any force were to arise internally, it's the police officer's primary role to suppress anything, any uprising that threatens the property, the stolen property of millionaires and billionaires. And you could see that clear as day in the Occupy Wall Street movement. The concerted, concentrated effort by the Obama administration, as well as the states, to clear out the encampments, to get rid of this uprising that was happening. And of course, to guarantee that another uprising like that is going to happen again. I suspect there'll be something after this Democratic election of probably, I don't know, it's looking kind of like Pete Buttigieg, but the Butt Man, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Pete Butt. Can you imagine if that guy runs against Donald Trump? It's going to be Pete Butt. Are you kidding? Donald Trump is going to call him the Butt. That's what he's going to call them. Like, and why shouldn't he? And then they'll like scoff and be like, well, I expect more than this childishness. And then Donald Trump's just going to double down. And because his followers are going to smirk and laugh and guffaw at the Democrats, right? And he'll say what he needs to say. And he should say that. I mean, Buttigieg is not going to be the legitimate nominee of the Democratic Party. That's the joke. And Donald Trump's just going to make a farce of the whole thing. Well, I mean, he's just going to point out that the whole thing is a farce, I guess is a better way of saying it. So, but here in Canada, I mean, our leadership is essentially just kowtowing to corporate power. We absolutely know that's true. Like, and I hope well, like, moving to Ontario politics, for example, like, we've got the most childish premier. Like, at least Kenny over in Alberta, he's just sort of like a sinister kind of an evil, right? Like, he understands that he's sort of an evil doer. He can't possibly imagine that what he's doing is good. Setting up a anti-environmental war chamber. Like, are you kidding me? That's something that like a Skeletor villain in an 80s cartoon would do, right? Now we're going to set up an anti-environmentalism war party. Like, are you kidding me? You can't possibly imagine that what you're doing is good. Like, you have to know that what you're doing is for self-serving reasons. I just can't imagine having a conversation with this guy and hearing like his legitimate excuses for, or what he considers to be legitimate excuses for setting up like this sort of behind the scenes double speak Orwellian war room to fight against environmentalists who are trying to save the planet from people like him. Like it's like, what is he, a Captain Planet villain? Like, I can't possibly imagine. He'd probably double down on stuff like, hey, people rely on these jobs. And then you'd be like, hey, how about like a basic income for them, right? If people need money to survive, how about you just provide the means for them to survive? Oh, that'll just make people lazy. It's like, oh, so you're more terrified of people being lazy than you are of them starving. Interesting. That's interesting. It's always interesting to me how these right-wing politicians are more concerned about lazy people than they are concerned about starving people. That's always interesting. Even though no evidence shows that the basic income makes people lazy. And then here in Toronto, I mean, for goodness sakes, Doug Ford just came out with a statement saying he's received texts from teachers, because there's a teacher strike going on. He's received texts from teachers who support him. No, you can't see those texts. So he's just saying it, right? He's just like this outrageous liar who like is just gonna say what he wants. And if you go like, hey, can we see those texts? What are you, a socialist? Oh, socialism is the destruction of our society. What a problem socialism is. Here, let me cut your services more. You know? And the whole like, we have to cut your services to make money thing is a complete lie. And we know it's a complete lie because what's Doug Ford doing for the parents who are facing problems because of these strikes? Oh, Doug Ford's giving them money to pay for daycare, which is great, actually. We should create a system. We should create a structure so that daycare is free for working parents. I can't imagine what a burden it must be to have to like. I talk to parents who are like, yeah, I work this job to pay for daycare for my kid, and it's like, well, that sounds insane. Like, you're working this job and the job pays for the daycare for the kid, and then any kind of extra surplus basically just goes to bills. Like, that's nuts. That's insane. And so absolutely we should set up like a free daycare service for kids. Absolutely we should do that for parents and for kids, and create benefits for everybody. Other nations have done it and have been successful doing it, so I don't see what the holdup is. And so here's Doug Ford handing out money to these parents, and then when you do the math on it, you realize that the amount of money that he's going to hand out to these parents over the strike thing is larger than the ask that the teachers have. The teachers are only asking for like a couple $1 million. Like, it's not, or I shouldn't say a couple $1 million, like, but they're not asking for like billions and billions of dollars. And so it's like obvious that this isn't about the teachers' issues. This is about control of the education system and the further privatization of social services. Like, the Doug Ford administration's position literally is, we don't have any money, so here's some money. And it's just this sort of insane, absurdist position that is indicative of conservative politics in this country. Anyway, guys, I'm home, dog walked. There's my rambling for the day. I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you spend time with your friends, spend time with your family. I hope somebody loves you. I love you. And have fun out there, guys. Have fun out there.